Red One is a movie that came out very recently to some very weird reviews. The reviews are all over the place. We'll talk about it, right? But it is a Christmas movie starring The Rock. Now, of course, The Rock nowadays in Hollywood doesn't have the greatest reputation, right? People still love him, but a lot of people don't, right? And there's quite a lot of criticism for it. Is it justified? That's what we're here to talk about. But they are talking about how it's flopping, which unfortunately it is, right? But besides that, the reviews 34% on Metacritic, 32% by critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.9 on IMDb, and Google users have gave it a 89%, which you could see and say, oh, that seems like an outlier. Kind of not really, as the audience review for the Red One or Red One is 88, so obviously within the realm of the other guys, right? It seems like the critics don't like it, but the audience did. Now, of course, what rating would I give it? I would give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. It's a good movie, but unfortunately, obviously, since it's the end of the year, I unfortunately have to compare it to a lot of other great films. This film, obviously, the main premise, before we get into spoilers, is Red One, obviously being codenamed for Santa Claus, is abducted by an evil witch who wants to punish the naughty like they used to do back in the day, right? And of course, The Rock plays basically the bodyguard of Santa Claus, as they mentioned, who was set to retire that Christmas, but decided because he could not see the ability to change, I guess you could say, because the naughty list, oh, it has always existed, right? But believing Santa Claus does exist kind of obviously fell off. So when people realized Santa Claus doesn't exist, they said, well, who cares about the naughty list? I don't care. I'm not going to change, right? So that's what he saw, right? He couldn't see change, right? I guess you could say. Or the inner child of people, right? And of course, Chris Evans is also there. He plays an essential, they say mercenary, right? But all he does is essentially you pay him, he finds someone, and that's about it, right? Of course, they didn't actually tell him that they're fighting Santa Claus because he doesn't believe in him, right? But besides that, he gets roped into the world of mythological creatures in an attempt to rescue Santa Claus. Now, of course, that is the essential plot. Santa Claus goes missing. The Rock has to enlist Chris Evans to find Santa Claus, right? But besides that, now is the essential spoiler review. If I were to give one last thing before we get to it, it's very charming. It does really well in using the mythical world to make some good action scenes and make it a very charming movie. Now, of course, the some bad parts is not your typical Christmas movie, right? Christmas obviously is about family and hometown values or whatever, right? It's supposed to hit close to home, right? The Holdovers, which was the last one, technically was also like this one, but it's technically a Christmas movie, and it's completely different, right? Because that one's more the traditional Christmas type movies. Well, this one's more action, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, many people probably will watch the movie in hopes of a deep story. Don't get me wrong, they do have some of it, but for the most part, it's mostly just action comedy with the element of Christmas just there, right? But besides that, now it's time for the spoiler, right? What's good about the movie, what's bad, we'll get right into it. The good part is, once again, it's the world of mythical creatures, right? Because Chris Evans basically gets a bombshell thrown on him, basically saying Santa Claus exists. And not only that, we also get to see the Headless Horseman, which is a very cool thing. But of course, we do get confirmation that other monsters exist, which is of course great, right? And probably can set up more films, obviously without The Rock. But they technically can have a cinematic universe, but they could also just have a bunch of movies about this world, right? The Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, other ones, right? But besides that, they do good with that, right? Especially with the North Pole, great design. Obviously, you have Garcia, aka the bear, and the way the other guys, you have penguins, you have goblins, and all that stuff. They looks pretty cool, right? Not only that, a lot of it's charming, right? You get to see all these nice little designs. The people are interesting, especially the minor ones. You don't really expect them to be too funny or whatever, but they are. Another good thing is just the characters and character designs. I mean, you got basic thing like the polar bear, but he looks good. He looks amazing. Look at him. He looks nice. Not to mention, you also have Krampus. That's right, Krampus, obviously, to many people, is the essential antagonist of Christmas. Unfortunately, not in this movie, but whatever, right? He has his own little story, right? He's the adopted brother of Santa Claus, who they parted ways because while he was helping Santa Claus, he kind of realized these kids are naughty, and none of them changed. Like, obviously, like The Rock, right? But he decided to take matters into his own hand. He made the naughty list, and that's where the naughty list came to be. And he started punishing those kids, right? And then he got banished for that, right? And also, actually, does give a good little explanation of why Krampus is only heard about in like Eastern Europe or whatever, right? Wherever you can hear Krampus, right? That's because once he left Santa Claus, he joined up with the witch, which is the main antagonist of the movie, and then they only hung around in those areas. So obviously, it gives a little explanation of why he's only heard there. Like, I don't think that many people hear about Krampus in America, right? Or Mexico or Canada, right? Maybe Canada, right? Not to mention, just look at him. He looks amazing. Obviously, he's just a goat man. Nothing too spectacular, but he looks amazing. The practical effects, the practical makeup and all that stuff looks amazing, right? Another good thing is the essential antagonist, right? She is a shape-shifting ogre, I think that's what they call her, who used to date Krampus, right? They used to go around punishing people together, and she had enough of the Christmas spirit. Not Christmas spirit, right? Because he's bad, but she's trying to do a good thing, but she's doing a bad way of doing it, right? Because she wants to punish these people. And she had enough, so she takes one of these snow globes that traps a naughty guy inside, to their knowledge, essentially forever. So I said, well, we're finally going to put some fear into these people to finally change for the better, which is weird because it's like, how could you change when you're already stuck in a snow globe? I'm just saying. Kind of doesn't really scream change, right? But besides that, good antagonist as well. But of course, J.K. Simmons obviously plays the role of Santa Claus. Does he do well? He does all right. Don't get me wrong, he has the essential physique of a St. Nicholas, of course, because this was, I assume, is more based off of St. Nicholas than Santa Claus. Because everyone knows Santa Claus is some big fatty, right? Well, St. Nicholas is the elderly man, right? Skinny. But actually, that's actually a somewhat bad thing. Santa Claus does not get a lot of screen time. And there's actually a bigger bad thing, which we'll talk about later, but it's not that bad, right? But besides that, that's essentially a lot of the good things. You got comedy, great set designs, great practical makeup, good acting for the most part, especially from the side characters and the minor characters. Obviously, it's always good to have a good foundation. Plot does pretty good. It also does a pretty good job of making sure the story goes along smoothly. Because this movie is a 2-hour movie, so it's at somewhat of the longer side, but it doesn't feel like it. They do a pretty good job of making you go throughout the acts pretty seamlessly. But the bad part is a lot of the people, especially the main guys, kind of don't have that little charm or little emotions in their acting, especially The Rock. Of course, everyone knows The Rock, as they say, has essentially delved into just playing The Rock. He's not playing the head of security of the North Pole. He's just playing The Rock. The Rock who's defending Santa Claus, right? Which is very apparent in this movie. But he's not that bad. He's not the worst part of the movie. Or at least, well, technically, he is the worst part of the movie. Actually, no, he's not, right? But it's not bad. He's not bad. He's just the worst of a great cast. Especially this one essential director of the mythological world, which she essentially takes care of treaties. I think her name's Zoe. She takes care of treaties throughout countries and all stuff to basically make sure that these guys are under the radar, right? Because people don't believe Santa Claus exists. The Loch Ness Monster, the Headless Horseman. Obviously, she's just there to make sure that everything runs smoothly. She also kind of feels flat, you know? She doesn't talk with a lot of emphasis. I don't know how to explain it. But these people don't put a lot of emotions in it. It's just like just one note throughout the film. They rarely change attitude. Even when they're supposed to be mad, happy, sad, it's all around the same wavelength, if that makes any sense, right? That unfortunately sucks. And of course, another big one is that because obviously it's a Christmas film, so you have to put some sort of heartfelt message. And that is, of course, Chris Evans and his kid. And of course, he and his mother divorced because obviously he never truly grew up, as they mentioned in the film. And he essentially never wanted to be a part of his life, not because he doesn't love him, but because he believed that that was the correct way of parenting him. Obviously, it's not. but they don't put a lot of screen time between him and his kid. They have like one car ride where they actually dedicate some minutes for the relationship, but it's just not enough to really hit home the essential message of when they actually do make amends in the end of the movie. Don't get me wrong, it's still nice and warm, but it could have been done better if given a little bit more time, right? Even J.K. Simmons, like I said, he's an alright Santa Claus. He also feels one note, I guess you could say. Literally, in the beginning of the movie, he's going around basically undercover as a mall Santa, so he spends some time with the actual kids, right? Because he likes that. You cannot even tell from the way he talks. Not even. He talks the same way throughout the beginning of the film, throughout the end. Don't get me wrong. He has some nice words of advice for The Rock, essentially trying to find his way again. But for the most part, it just sounds the same. It's the same thing, right? But besides that, a lot of the time, it's just things just could have been done better. It's not bad. It just could have been done better. Unfortunately, this obviously, just like every year, it comes out with a bunch of great films. So unfortunately, it's probably going to get lost in the pile. But is this a movie worth watching? If you're going to a movie theater just for whatever, you just feel like it, it probably might be the better movie out in theaters. Of course, there are another movie called Here, which I kind of want to watch to make sure it really is the best movie out. But for the most part, it seems like a movie that could have been great. You know, you see the elements, you see the creatures, you see the world building. It's all good, right? It's just the actors couldn't take it home. You know, they were on third base, but they couldn't get a home run. You know, simple as that. They couldn't get it. They were stuck on third base. But it is still a good movie, 7.5. It's still enjoyable. But unfortunately, the biggest people in the movies, obviously the people having the most screen time, are unfortunately not the best ones. I love Krampus. I love the antagonist. I love the little side characters. They put there's a lot of heart in them, right? But for the most part, I keep reiterating it, but The Rock, J.K. Simmons, and Lucy Liu, unfortunately, are the ones that I seem one noted, right? Is that even the correct way of saying it? They just sound the same. Like, it's all flat. No matter what emotion they try to portray, it sounds the same. Chris Evans does surprisingly well. Obviously, you don't really expect him, because obviously Chris Evans, you know, to a lot of people, he's just Captain America. So when he goes up to be this like goofy guy, it feels a little weird, but I like it. It's good. He does well. Out of the main cast, he is the best one. But besides that, an enjoyable film, not a great film, but a good film. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this review. If you think any different, leave it in the comments below. I do really want to know what you guys think about the movie. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.